Kamara comes in at my 10. Of course, like I said before we got into this tier, that assumes he's playing the full season. Where do you have Kamara sliding? And you've always been a huge Kamara guy. What are your thoughts on him?
So we haven't yet got to my RB3, RB5, and RB7.
Wow.
Kamara's my RB3.
Guys. Do we just jump to those guys RB3 instead?
We're getting to them next. So they're 3 of your next 4. Kamara's my RB3.
Okay.
And so I outline in the article, like every single guy, I talk about obviously the concerns, and then I talk about how compelling I find those concerns. And with Kamara, he could be facing a suspension of at least 6 games. All right, well, let's talk about it. The final 6 games of the season matter exponentially more than the first 6 games of the season. His most likely handcuff, Mark Ingram, can be drafted in round 16. Yes. We know this offense typically employs a bell cow when one of the top 2 running backs is hurt. I think you combine Ingram, if it is Ingram, it might not be, but most likely Ingram, with those 6 games with Kamara for the remainder. I think that's easy RB3 outputs at worst. But I also don't think he gets suspended. I don't think he gets suspended till 2023. There's a nightmare scenario where the Saints are out of the playoff hunt. And he settles or something and they suspend. I just don't find that compelling, but you could hand him a 6-game suspension tomorrow and I'm still like him at RB3. Keep in mind, he's RB15 by ADP. The second concern is he arguably last year was his worst year. He lost Drew Brees. Drew Brees always targeted running backs at the single highest rate in all of fantasy football, in all of football. Okay, well, with Jameis Winston over the past 2 seasons on all of his dropbacks, Winston targeted Kamara on a team-high 22% of his throws. That's more than Kamara's average over the last 4 seasons. That was identical to Drew Brees in his last full season. The third point is, okay, Sean Payton's gone, and Sean Payton is an unrivaled RB whisperer. His team ranks basically first in team running back PPR points every single year. Okay, is that a concern? And I don't think so. The OC is Pete Carmichael, who called plays for the team in 2012 when Sean Payton was suspended. And not only did the Saints lead the league in running back receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, but they were all near franchise highs, which is incredible given that history. So walking through every single one of these, I just don't find it terribly compelling. And then when you move beyond that, look at what he's done throughout his career. He's finished 4th, 8th, 1st, and 6th in fantasy points per game. When he finished 8th, he was seriously hurt. When he finished 6th last year, he was seriously hurt. And the team had Trevor Siemian, a crippled Taysom Hill, Ian Book, combining for over 2/3 of the team's dropbacks. It was far and away their worst season ever by a 30%, 35% drop in points per game. But crucially, Kamara saw the best usage of his career. Career high, 76% snap share. That was up from a prior career high of 69%. He led all players at all positions in team XFP percentage. He did see a decline in targets, but a lot more carries. And this is the most fantasy efficient running back of all time. He is 3 of the top 15 seasons all time by fantasy points per touch. There's not more than, 2 duplicate names in the top, 30. And he did it 3 times. He's just an absolute monster. And he was hurt where he had an 80% snap share prior to week 9. And then that dropped to 71% following the injury. Just, he's RB3, and it's really rare you get values like this, especially in today's day and age. And so my last article, I wrote 6,000 words on why, in a vacuum, RB is the optimal start. In the vast majority of leagues, it's proven to be optimal in a vacuum. But we don't live in a vacuum. We live in a world where you could draft Alvin Kamara at the tail end of round 3 and fuck it. He's a circle your draft player where you go into the draft saying, I am taking this guy in round 3 at all costs. and that's where I have him. Did you find this compelling? Because otherwise, like, I am scared because like I am way off the markets on this.
No, I thought I was high at 10, and all the reason you outlined like makes me think I just need to bump him up. I've been taking him round 3 in every best ball draft I've done that he's there. Even early round, later round 2, I've been scooping him there. RB is often how I'll start my drafts, and I love that to get Kamara in third because, as you mentioned, even if there's a suspension, I've already gotten 2, hopefully, bell cows ahead of him, and that Mark Ingram insurance policy is around 16 price, maybe even cheaper. He's going around 18 sometimes, I see here. The only thing I can add to it, I have nothing to detract from it. I have no argument against it other than maybe the line's a little bit worse, but that's never mattered for Kamara, so I'm not overly worried there. The only thing that can benefit, you talked about a crippled Simeon and Taysom Hill and all that awful quarterback situation. When he did have Jameis Winston, he averaged 19.9 fantasy points per game. That would have been the RB4 last year, and that was with their number one threat being Marquez Callaway on the outside. So no wonder his efficiency dropped a little bit last year. You give now Olave, Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas is looking healthy again. Sure, that eats into the workload a little bit as a receiver, but as an offense, that offense should be astronomically better with Jameis Winston healthy, with those weapons around him. I think it's going to be a huge step forward for his efficiency yet again, like back to the Kamara we're used to with, if we get the usage he got last year that you outlined, RB3 is dead right in that potential world. So I don't think you're crazy at all. I can't talk you off that ledge.
I mean, it's just such a mass. If that's right, and I think it's right, that's just like such a massive edge for drafters until that ADP changes. If it does, hopefully it doesn't.
I hope not either, because I have been hammering it. So I'm glad you're on the same page with me as Kamara. I was worried that was going to be one where you're like, you're crazy. He's my running back 15. So you're even higher than me, and I love it. So maybe I need to bump him up. I was nervous to put him too much higher than 10, but I like him. Honestly, the way you talked about him, I like him more than Jones, Barkley. Yeah, I love it. Great case indeed. So
what is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.